welcome to the AC Report. I'm Christopher Ailes.
And I'm Mark Canut.
And today we're going to talk about immigration. So Mark, do you want to give us a little bit of background knowledge of what's going on right now with Trump and everything?
Sure. So in the news recently, the immigration issue is becoming a very, very hot topic, especially in regards to Trump's recent policies, quote unquote, for separating children at the border. There's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of anger, and there's a lot of animosity towards Trump and his administration because of this. And it's bringing the immigration debate back to the forefront, which the immigration debate is something that doesn't need to be hidden, it needs to be talked about.
I agree. I think it needs to be talked about in a respectful manner too, because we were discussing this before we started recording, that the chairman in California, Ms. Nanette, she's accusing ICE of being anti-immigration for just doing their job. And she was talking to us with the ICE director, Thomas Homan?
Yes, Thomas Homan, yeah, the acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Yeah.
And it's preposterous what's being said, because you have a law enforcement entity or agency that's doing its job, and they're being ridiculed because of it.
Yeah.
And what you have is just plain. I'm former law enforcement myself, and it's insulting that you have a congresswoman who's sitting here bashing ICE for following the law, and it's ridiculous. We'll get into more of that later.
I was gonna say, what I don't like that she did though is she compared, our feelings towards MS-13 to all immigrants.
Right.
I hate that broad stroke so much, and that's what they do a lot. Is these generalizing sweeps of just statements that mean nothing. Because even the DNC vice chairman, instead of once again opening the conversation, having a good debate or a topic, kind of like what we try to do every week, is they said that illegals are being treated like Jews in Nazi Germany. That's absurd.
Agreed.
One, have you ever seen these camps? They're not perfect or anything, but they're not starving the kids.
Not gassing them.
Yeah, they're not gassing them. And also, these weren't citizens of our country either. Like
Right.
the Jews were forced out of their citizenship. They were actually Germans.
Right.
These people are coming to our country, breaking our laws. And I know we'll go into more of the statistics behind that later, but to compare, just a little crime that they're committing and then punishing for their crime, comparing that to death camps, that's absurd.
Well, one of the things that you brought up that's interesting is the mention of MS-13 and the correlating our feelings of what MS-13 is, and putting it towards all immigrants. And that's the farthest from the point.
Yeah.
Just because we agree, we think that MS-13 is a bunch of violent animals, doesn't mean that we think all illegal immigrants are violent animals, because that's not true, and I'll stand on the soapbox and say that all the time. But you gotta sit there and look. MS-13 is nothing. They are nothing but a pack of rabid animals.
Yeah.
I mean, they have high murder rates. They murder women for no reason whatsoever. There was a case not too long ago where they murdered a 31-year-old Milagros, Canhura, was killed outside her own home in Long Island. She's 7 months pregnant, killed by MS-13 gang members for no reason whatsoever. You have they are savages, and they're the ones who deserve to be deported. Don't deserve to have any trial. They just need to be taken out, and deported.
I agree. And the thing is, we have no issue with legal immigration. If you want to come over here legally, we love that. In fact, that's the whole point of why we have these punishments for illegal citizens. We don't want you to come here illegally, we want you to do it legally and assimilate to our culture. Whether you're brown, black, yellow, white, whatever your skin color is, we want you to come here legally and become a part of the American values that we always talk about, how everyone's created equally. Everyone, no matter where you come from or what you start with, you can make it to the Bill Gates status or the Oprah Winfrey status. I mean, that's the beauty of our country. In fact, but the issue that I have with the illegals is they commit so much of the crime. It's ridiculous, because I'm going to read you some statistics from the Center for the Immigration Studies. So between 2011 and 2016, 44.2% of federal crimes were committed by non-U.S. citizens. So 4% of the adult population are made by illegal immigrants, and non-citizens account for 42.4% of kidnapping convictions, 31.5% of drug convictions, 22.9% of money laundering convictions, 13.4% of administration of justice offenses, which is like witness tampering and stuff like that.
Right.
17.8% of economic crimes like larceny or fraud. 13% of other convictions such as bribery, civil rights, by the way, which they always call us racist for. So the illegals actually committing civil rights issues. 12.8% of all thefts, and 37% of the homicides. 37%, 4% of the population committing 37% of our homicides. So yeah, when Trump says things such as illegal immigrants, he doesn't mention the race because illegal immigrants could be anywhere from Mexico or even from Europe or anywhere. They're committing these crimes. And that's why we want to legalize you and make sure you're assimilating to our culture, because once you assimilate, you don't do these type of things.
Well, if you become a legalized citizen and you do commit these crimes, then you become fully susceptible to everything, to to the courts, to trial, to everything that is guaranteed when you commit a crime in this country.
Yeah.
What the punishments you face. And another thing, again, I want to keep bringing up a little bit about MS-13 because there's a big misconception that MS-13, again, like I said before, are not violent. Not all of them are violent. MS-13 is very big on illegal immigration. They run the Central American illegal immigration into the country. They're also very big on human trafficking. They are really big when it comes to trafficking a lot of women, young women, into the country. Most of the majority of the illegal aliens brought in by MS-13 are males for ages 15 to 17, which these are young kids who are brought in and have no home, have nowhere to go, have no family, and this leads them into it's easy to mold them into a gang.
Yeah. And
you to sit there and tell me that people get all upset over Trump calling them animals, and I'm just like, if you ever seen what they've done, if you ever watched anything in the news about them, you would say the same thing.
Yeah. I like what Sarah Sanders said. If the Democrats want to defend MS-13, run with that platform, please. We would love that in 2020.
Oh, definitely.
We'll
do it.
Win in landslides. And I don't know. I don't see the issue that Trump. They're mad at Trump for quote unquote separating their children, but he's just following the law at hand. I mean, if you come over here as an illegal immigrant, and right now he's prosecuting them for breaking that law, you have to separate them because that's the law of the land right now. And because of that, kids can't be with their parents for, I think it's, let me double check, over 20 days, and that's fine. If they really want this to stop, I agree with what Ben Shapiro said. Ben Shapiro said, if Congress could stop this today by stating and making a law that if you come into this country illegally with your parents, you can stay with your parents and then allow your parents to decide where you go.
Right.
That way there's no harm or foul.
Well, it's important to realize that there is, so there's a lot of questions amongst both sides. There's people who are saying that, there's a federal law that mandates that that the Democrats supported, that Clinton and Obama supported, and kept alive, that basically says that, you have to get rid of you have to separate children from their parents committing crimes across the border. I'll be blunt, that's not true. There is no federal law in existence that states that. However, there was a court case in 1997 that was passed that some people reference. It's called the Flores. The Flores versus I forget, I can't find it in here, but it's the case involving Flores. And basically, all it did was provide guidelines and standards for what to do when separating, when you have children who are separated from the parents at the border. And one of the things that's important to know is that it's not just the crime of illegal immigration. In any American, it's the same way. If you commit a drug crime, if you're in court for that, if you commit crime, you commit murder or anything like that, you are separated from your kids. Yep. When I was in law enforcement, so I served in child protection. We took kids away from their parents because they were convicted felons, they were drug abusers, they were, some were, abusing their spouses and abusing their children. So you separate them. You separate children from their parents. The problem that I think a lot of people have is that in America, if you're a citizen, you've lived here for a while, you have other family that we can put you with.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're an illegal immigrant and you get separated from from your mother and father while they're in court, you have nowhere else to go. But I mean, you can't go to your family because you most likely don't have any other family here.
Yeah.
And then you go into child services and welfare and child welfare, and that just becomes a whole other issue within itself.
I think a lot of people, because you brought up how it's not a law, it was a court ruling, that's what we're following and have to follow, is the issue they have is no one complained about this till now when it's Trump. Because you mentioned it happened in 1997. So Clinton was around, he didn't say anything about it, or at least he didn't try to. George Bush didn't say anything about it. Then President Obama definitely didn't say anything about it. In fact, he deported a lot of.
Well, I want to bring up real quick and just go briefly into the history behind the 1997 thing. So this started in 1985. There was a 15-year-old immigrant girl illegal immigrant from El Salvador named Jenny Lisette Flores. She was apprehended by the Immigration and Naturalization Service, which was the group that basically predated ICE, after illegally attempting to cross the Mexico-United States border. She being a minor, was taken to a detention facility where she was held among adults of both sexes, was daily strip searched, and was told she would only be released to the custody of her parents, who INS suspected were illegal immigrants. So what happened was, from 1985 all the way to 1997, there was a big court case, all that, and what was established was guidelines for keeping children safe. That's the issue. There is no law that states that you have to separate children when they're at the border. There's no federal law that states that, but there are guidelines to do so and standards that must be maintained if you're going to separate children from their families.
So what bothers me is, we can go into use that as a segue, is the Democrats, they want Trump to fix this. I mean, they really do. They're telling him to fix it, otherwise he's racist. And then when Ted Cruz comes out with a plan to actually fix it, but he has to get it approved through the Senate and all that, Chuck Schumer then comes out and refuses to do any legislation, and he says, no, it has to be Trump. It has to be Trump.
Right.
Well, they could easily fix this right now, because it's not the executive branch's job.
He's quoted, and this is a quote by the Hill of what he said. He goes, "There are so many obstacles to legislation, and when the president can do it with his own pen, it makes no sense. Legislation is not the way to go here when it's so easy for the president to sign it."
By the way, these are the same people who are comparing this to Auschwitz. If this is really Auschwitz and you could do something and you're just like, nah, president can do it.
I think this is part of a bigger picture here. If someone like Schumer can sit there and say, "Oh, no, we're not gonna do anything. It's the president's decision." There's a political reason behind that, and it's to keep all the focus on President Trump. We're coming upon it's 2018. We're coming upon another election year, midterms. So what better way to try to take down Trump and the Republicans than by keeping all the pressure on Trump and his supporters?
Yeah.
Even though the common sense dictates Congress to step in and do its job and do something about this crisis.
And they need a crisis because the economy is booming. I mean, Korea is doing nuclearizing, as we've discussed in other podcasts. I mean, America is winning like no other. I mean, they're grasping on straws with this. And the fact that Trump actually is now finally signing an executive order is what is being reported to solve this issue. Then CNN comes out talking about, is he overstepping his bounds? It's like, you asked for this. This is literally what you just asked for. And now he's giving you what you want, and now you're saying it's too much?
It's no matter what he does, they're not going to be happy because they want him gone. They want him tarnished. They want his reputation tarnished, and they're not gonna fix it.
If they really wanted to, stop illegals from entering the country, they could just, build a wall.
I mean, there was a guy who was there to witness what Schumer said, and Alexander Bolton from the Hill. And he literally said, this was his quote, Schumer said that Democrats want to keep the focus on Trump.
Yeah.
We have someone from the Hill, which is very liberal, mind you, sitting there saying, well, Democrats are totally wanting to keep the focus on Trump. So you would rather keep everything on Trump and let the immigration problem continue to spiral out of control, continue to let children, have to be separated from their parents, which is, it's a terrible thing to go through. I'll admit that it's a terrible thing to go through, but you're not going to do anything about it. You'd rather let Trump burn. I mean, it's basically, I'll make an allusion to this. It's basically like Nero when he fiddled while Rome burned.
Yeah.
They would rather let the country burn and just mind their own business and go against Trump than do their job.
Yeah. I mean, even when he gives them what they want, they're not happy because it's Trump. I mean, you remember what happened with DACA? They wanted so many illegals just to be legalized, and then we can start a new program. And then he goes, okay, we'll do. I don't remember the exact number, but it was over 1 million illegals would be just legalized, amnesty granted, just to get some funding for the wall. And instead of that, like, by the way, which is way more illegals than Obama wanted, like, instead of doing that, working with Trump, they just refused to and they somehow made it about white nationalism, which makes no sense because he was going to legalize Mexicans, Haitians.
Well, one of the issues that I think a lot of people need to understand is a majority of people aren't against immigrants coming into this country. That's a big misconception. A lot of people assume that, oh, just because we don't want illegal immigrants, we're anti-immigration. No, not at all. There's a lot of us want, say, go ahead, come into this country as long as you come in legally. But there's issues here. You have to understand the United States population is at what? What's the population for the United States right now? It's
300 million. It's
370 million, something like that. It's a lot. It's a lot,
growing.
And it's growing. Not to mention, you also have the increased risk of gang violence, like MS-13. You also have the increased risk of terrorism, which is becoming more and more relevant every day. And we can't just let these people come in to this country without vetting them to make sure that we are safe.
Yeah.
And if that makes me anti-immigrant because I want to make sure my fellow citizens are safe, okay, fine, call me that.
CNN's going to have a report on you.
Fine.
Telling you, you're going to be called racist.
I'll go up front and talk to them straight to their face. They probably won't invite me anyway, because,
But the big issue is, and this is why I start finding funny, is like these countries are starting to call us racist. Like when Mexico is calling you racist, it's one of those like, dude, Mexico literally just deported black citizens just because of their skin color.
And there's another thing. I love Mexico's calling us racist. Mexico's complaining about what Trump is doing wrong and everything. Here's an idea. Instead of focusing on the United States, how about the Mexican president and his government actually decide to crack down on the drug cartels that are ravaging the countryside right now? I mean, you have drug cartels that are out of control. If the Mexican president and the Mexican government get that crap under control, then maybe we won't have such an issue with illegal immigration in this country.
Yeah, they might actually want to stay for once.
Exactly.
Oh man. Anyways, so I do like Trump's plan to fix this issue. I really do like the wall. That's one reason why I didn't vote for him. The other being he wasn't Hillary Clinton.
I won't lie. I have mixed feelings about the wall. I do. One of the biggest things I used to always harp on a lot of my friends who supported Trump during the primaries when they kept saying the wall is they would sit there and say, oh, the Great Wall of China worked brilliantly. And I'm like, no, it did not. Just because the wall was there, people found a way to get over the wall multiple times, and China was invaded multiple times. So don't compare it to the Great Wall of China. No.
So what I would compare it to is I don't like that. I'll use present day because even if you use the Great Wall of China, they'll say, oh, that's old method. I'll use present day stuff. So 2013, the Israel-Egypt barrier, it reduced illegal incursions by up to 99.4%. That wall worked. The Israel-West Bank barrier that has between Israel and Palestine, it shows as more construction happens, the fewer Israeli deaths happen by Palestinian terrorists. So that's working for the purpose. The Hungarian border fence, which is right near North Africa, in 2015, it cut the daily crossings into their country to essentially zero, when it's up to like 400,000 plus per year. So walls work. In fact, I really do believe the wall will work. And I hate the argument, well, they'll find another way to get around. It's like, okay, well, at least you don't have that giant gaping opening.
Well, one of the most interesting things about the wall and the other side coming out against it, and I always believe that you should always know what the other side is saying. You should always, pay attention to what the other side has to say, because that's important.
Yeah.
And one of the things that a lot of people on the other side are saying about the wall and why it won't work is, and this is actually true, there are a lot of underground tunnels that go through go completely underneath the border and everything. And you just have to understand that it's not, that's how they get drugs into our country illegally, through these underground tunnels. And yes, a wall will help, but you still have to do something about underground. Because if they can't get in underground, if you build a wall, here's the thing, if you build a wall, they'll find other ways.
Maybe, but
let me phrase that. They most likely They could find other ways.
Yeah, I mean,
Say
they'll
that.
definitely try because, I mean, who doesn't want to be here? Greatest country ever.
Yeah,
But
I agree
the
with
thing is, now that they have to do underground tunnels and stuff, at least we don't have to focus on that giant opening. Because right now, people, I mean, even Charlie Kirk said himself, he literally went to the border and just kept hopping in and out of Mexico just because he could for like 30 minutes until
Mexican until both
until-
U.S. authorities and Mexican authorities kind of showed up. But
Yeah, and they're like, "What are you doing now?" I was like, "Just proving how easy this is." I mean, it's that easy where you can literally just hop back and forth between country and country. That's absurd.
But it's also important to notice that the wall is going to be I wouldn't say it's going to be a financial nightmare, because I don't think it is going to, but it's going to be a financial and logistical challenge. Because in addition to the finances that are going to be required to build the wall, you're also going to need to look at the geography of that whole area. I mean, there are parts of the entire southern border that literally just do this. Drop off and there's like a creek running through it.
Yeah.
How are you going to get a wall to... There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it's going to take a lot of time and effort to get it done. I don't know if Trump's going to complete it in these next couple of years, or if he gets elected the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I hope he does, man. We need something. We can't just allow people to walk back and forth.
Oh, I agree.
And we gotta do something. Alright, man. I think we're done on this topic. Did you have anything else to bring up?
No, actually,
Alright, perfect.
not really, no. Pretty much.
Thank you guys for tuning in.